This is going to be the 10 strategies you need to implement yesterday to prepare yourself for the impending recession in 2023. It's important to understand this from a fundamental perspective, and I'm going to give you the 10 pieces of advice you need to become bulletproof next year. If you're not aware, Federal Reserve has shifted to raising interest rates. Now, what does that mean for the economy? Basically, when you raise interest rates, it caps spending. The reason you want to cap spending is because spending contributes to inflation. And when you have too much inflation, prices continue to rise as wages continue to stagnate. And when that happens, you can enter something like the Great Depression of the 20s if things go unchecked. But because things are checked and because the Fed can just go and print trillions of dollars after their session is over and continue the cycle of boom and bust as it has always been, you want to become resilient against the motion of these waves in the economy. Think about yourself as a surfer. The best surfers in the world, I don't even know if they're in the Olympics, but let's just say Olympic level surfers, right? The best surfers out there, they have to be able to handle the choppiest of waves, and oftentimes the waves that they ride are not smooth, and you want to be just like that. Basically, the waves are going to come regardless, and what we're about to enter is going to be a tsunami, so you better prepare yourself. Here's the reality. First of all, this is a great book. It's called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. This is what allowed me to become profitable in my agency within the first couple of months. 50% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Only 20% of those businesses historically turn over profit. Think about it this way. Whether you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, or you run your own business, or you even work a job, right? Regardless of where you're at in life, however much you get paid or however much pay you dictate for yourself through your business, if you continue to spend more, which is what people do because they want to raise their standard of living, you're not going to be prepared for next year. You need cash reserves. You need fuck you money. Fuck you money is necessary to survive next year. So let's get into the video. The time is currently 10:04 in the morning. I'm at a Chicago O'Hare Airport, and we're headed to Salvador, Brazil. We're gonna be there for 2 weeks. Gonna be a good time. First time flying United business class. It's Premier Plus. Ended up getting this seat for free, and I did it using the points through Amex. So I'm gonna create a video for you guys that goes a deep dive into credit, specifically credit only, and that should come out in about a month or so. So comment down below what you wanna see in that, if you have anything specific you wanna see. And we're about to take off any moment here, so can't complain. See you on the flip side. So this is a little bit ridiculous. I didn't know that I could play Mahjong using what looks like a BlackBerry, an old BlackBerry. There we go. The whiskey nice and hidden. Middle of a chess game as well. We are in Bahia, Brazil, which is Salvador, Brazil, at Praia da Forte, which is there's a resort here. And let's get into point number one. Point number one is you need cash. All right, cash is going to be king in 2023, but ultimately you need to be bringing in money. Money needs to be piled up in front of you and in your circle only. Prioritize a low entry of difficulty business which flows high cash value. I want you to think of this in terms of job arbitrage, all right? Anybody who tells you you can do only things that you love and get super successful isn't addressing the reality of the situation. Let's say you have a difficult barrier of entry to get into business. You don't have much cash, and you're like, where do I start? Start doing the things you don't love in order to enable the things you do love. For example, let me break down a model that's simple for most people here. Let's say you're in more of a populous area. Start a DoorDash driver account. Make sure you track your gas and your miles, because you can use those as tax deductions if you form an LLC and then work as a DoorDash driver and account under that LLC, meaning all the money flows into the business checking account and all the money flows out of that business checking account to cover the expenses associated with your vehicle that's associated with your DoorDash driving job. I know people that make north of 8-9 grand a month on DoorDash that work like horses, okay? So let's be super conservative and say you work upper part-time levels, maybe 30 hours a week. Let's say you make 3 grand a month, okay? I think that's a super conservative figure. Here's the key, right? In those $3,000 in your first month, you take $1,500, you put those towards rent and your car payment. Now, I'm assuming you want to be an entrepreneur and you don't want to have to hop from job to job, paycheck to paycheck, and earn up to your salary and live off your salary. So in 2023, the gig economy economy is where it's at, and you should start a super cheap job that's super convenient and not too out of your way, using your own car. Take that 50%, that $1,500 I mentioned before, and you put it towards your essential payments, and then the other 50%, the other $1,500, that's where you're gonna want to reinvest the additional $1,500 into learning a high level skill set via a course or a series of courses online. And you'll be able to arbitrage from those gig economy jobs, those jobs you didn't want to work, the things you didn't want to do, in order to enable the things you want to do that set you free. And then eventually you'll hit a gold mine and the cash will start coming, but you have to be persistent and disciplined, and I promise you, you'll get somewhere. I was in that position. I promise you, with enough knowledge investment, you will get there. All right, so point number 2, you got to get your accounting in check and making sure that you understand the wider picture of how much money you're bringing in as a person and or as an LLC, and how much money you're expending as a person and or as an LLC. So it's important to measure both, and that way you can set goals for yourself that are achievable based off of different projections, percentages, etc. Personally, I use Notion for a lot of my like super basic and super scrappy accounting tasks. I recommend starting stupid simple up front. That way you're not spending as much money on the accounting. You're focused on actually making the money that is necessary to grow the business. But the best thing you want to do is you want to start with something like Excel and just track something in Excel or Google Drive, whatever it is, and then move that data out. Use existing templates. Vertex 42 is a great website for templates. Move that data out and then work in tools like Notion, which are more optimized for productivity. And if you're interested in templates for these kinds of things, you should follow my Twitter at MustyLTweets, because I develop a new template every single week and release it for free. And then you go from that kind of platform and you go into professional accounting. So if you have less than 100 employees, I recommend QuickBooks, because it's a simple software that you can set up, and it is, in terms of liability, it's managed for that size of a company. Now, if you have more than 100 employees, that's when you move from QuickBooks to a professional accountant or a professional accounting team. Tip number 3 here is going to be, don't invest in the market with the money you make up front. You're going to want to invest in yourself. Social media marketing, SEO, product design, etc. These are all high value skill sets, and these are things that can be learned and reshaped into single member LLCs, such as yourself watching this video. But this is what people get confused by. They go on YouTube, they see some bullshit advertisement, oh, you know, invest in stocks, become a trader, it's all bullshit. You want to learn a high value skill set that will allow you to cash flow up front, especially during this recession, before you invest in the market. Tip number 4, get in good physical and mental shape. It's conducive to the growth of your business. From my personal experience and from the experience of my mentors and people that I surround myself with, the more physically and mentally in shape you are, the more in shape your business will become, because your business is a direct reflection of yourself. And you watching this video want to start your business in 2023 to be recession proof. And in order to do that, you have to start small. And in order to start small, you have to associate yourself with your own business. And in order to do that, you have to be healthy. So stay in good shape. That's tip number 4. Tip number 5, do not deviate from the plan. Work those late nights, do the things you don't want to do, start that business, but don't take that money and reinvest it into the stock market because you saw some other YouTube guru on an ad that's telling you to invest in stocks. This goes back to the points I talked about previously. Focus so intensively on this one business model that you're developing skills for in the beginning of 2023 that by the time the end of 2023 comes, you have more cash in hand, more savings than you thought possible. And that freedom of mind, trust me, is much better to wake up to than the freedom of having a nice car in the moment. And by the way, since we're here and I had to basically parkour onto this bed surrounded by water, which I'm not complaining because it's beautiful here, but still, we're gonna get into point number 6 while I'm here as well. Apparently I can't count with my hands. Point number 6 is cut ties with anybody who is not conducive to the condition you want to be in. Nowadays, you go on LinkedIn and you go to some random 45-year-old guy halfway across the world that's done marketing for 30 years and you DM him, hey, I'm interested in learning from you for free. Can we set up a 1-hour Zoom call? Odds are, unless he's a scumbag or a multimillionaire that doesn't have time, he is going to say, yes, let's get on a 1-hour Zoom call. You have a notepad and congrats, you have a mentorship. Cut ties with people that are not conducive to the life you want to live. Get rid of friends that just shake their booty on the dance club every night, okay? And go and make something of yourself. Tip number 7 is what you want to do once you ramp your cash flow, right? So let's say you have enough money in the bank. It's, you know, Q3 of this year. You're beating the recession, you're beating inflation. Things are going well for you. Figured out what business you have. Everything is good. What do you do next? Well, problem is most people, they want to take their cash and move it into a traditional checking or savings account. That's fine, it's what most people do. The only problem is that at most in a personal private savings account, you might be able to make 2%, maybe scratch the surface of 3% in interest on your savings. The reason for that is fractional reserve banking, okay? So what happens in the US, assuming you're in the US, is what the banks will do is they'll open up a bunch of accounts just like yours. They have a bunch of different clients that put their savings into these accounts, and the bank leverages against your money. They have your money, they have the money of everybody else around them. This is why the federal credit unions need to protect your assets up to a certain amount per bank account. What the bank does is they say, I'm gonna pay you, Joe Schmo, 3% interest. This is a best case, 3% interest on the money that you hold at my bank. Thank you for banking with us. Thank you for banking with our business. What they'll then do is they'll then leverage against that the amount of cash that you have in your bank account, and they'll lend out to other people at absurd interest rates. We're talking about, 15%, 20%. What you're gonna wanna do in this inflationary period is you're going to want to avoid those unfavorable conditions. It's not necessary, but it's unfavorable. So there's two convenient-ish ways of doing that. The first is you issue US Treasury notes on a varying basis of term period. So there's 5-year treasuries, there's 10-year treasuries, there's 30-year treasuries. The reason you do that is because the yield on those is usually somewhere around 10%. So if you're taking your money and you're putting it into US Treasury notes, investing that money, which you can carry out as cash, you can actually withdraw that money as cash anytime you want, that account has 10% interest carryover, as opposed to the 3% you might be able to get in best case conditions in your personal private savings account. Now, the second thing you can do is, which is not the easiest, but it's a hack, is you can open a whole term life insurance policy. And with the whole term life insurance policy, there is a split, a segregation between what's called a cash account, which is a transactable account, just like a checking account, and a term plan account. And the minimum requirement of contribution to the term plan account is 10%. What does this mean? If you have $10,000 and you put it all into a 90-10 split, properly set up whole term life insurance policy, you have access to $9,000 of those $10,000. Oh, Nick, what about the additional $1,000? Well, let's be smart here. That $9,000 that's in that cash account, which is attributed to the whole term life insurance policy, can grow at an absurdly high interest rate, similar to treasury notes. You can get close to 10%. I believe some is even higher. I believe that is the way to go. Tip number 8 goes hand in hand with tip number 7. As you can tell, I haven't moved locations. They go hand in hand. Tip number 8 is to maximize assets and reduce liabilities. I would say an asset is something that carries net profit above the expense necessary to carry such profit. So let me give you an example. If you have ownership of a mortgage and it's an investment property and you're renting it out on Airbnb, and you're making, rental value beyond the ARV, you have to rent value, and you're also retaining equity on the mortgage, then you have an asset because you have both cash flow and equity. Liabilities, in my perception, are expenses that are not covered by profit. You want to maximize assets, minimize liabilities. All right, so tip number 9 here, I gotta look at my fingers now, it's getting hard to count, is going to be mastering the tax code. This is super important. And to structure your entity appropriately in the right state too. Hint, hint, I'm not a financial advisor, but Delaware is a great state to form your corporation. So continue on to step 10, and we'll be done here quite shortly. Tip number 10, don't believe anything I've told you. Consume content mindfully, not mindlessly, including mine. Take everything with a grain of salt, leave your feedback, and I'd love to hear it. Maybe there are some things I got slightly inaccurate in this video. Maybe I'm misconceived about more efficient ways of tackling things that you might be aware of. Let's share this value together in the comment section below. And with that, I'm gonna close out this video. In the next video, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about yet, but it's gonna be released soon after this one. And we're gonna get to the desk. We're gonna get to the whiteboard, and I'm gonna do that quite frequently and quite often on this channel. And we're gonna identify specific ways to grow your business. Not, read this book, and then potentially this mindset. No, I'm gonna tell you exactly what to do in general, step by step, to grow different elements of every approachable online business model that exists. We're gonna do that together, we're gonna explore it together. Peace.